Chapter 34. Reality sets in. The summer of 1975 was passing quickly, and the second Wheatland was fast approaching, scheduled once again for the last weekend in August. Don and I were still living in the tiny garage. Don tried his hand as a dishwasher for some friends starting a little restaurant. He failed miserably being a worker bee, and the restaurant also failed. I don't think any of these men involved understood how much work they were taking on or understood what the service industry really meant. Having the restaurant die freed Don up to work with us on Wheatland. The men and women that lived in Remus got busy and made a new plastic draped stage, and the rest of us made t-shirts and some simple printed brochures. Others booked the bands, collected tents, staged the layout, and mowed the lawns, organized food, found tables and chairs, microphones, stands, speakers, and all sorts of other accoutrement. There was always more to do than we could imagine. It kept us busy and out of trouble. The town might think we were trouble, but really, it was quite the opposite. Wheatland was a hoot. There were so many great bands playing the same song over and over again both days. We had to work on that problem. We camped out back of the stage near the intersection of the old rock wall and stump with the bee's nest. Everyone knew where that was. We had the best camping site in the whole state. No water, scattered porta pots, and just a little tent to sleep in, but we could hear the music playing on stage and everyone stopped by our little site. If I didn't hear someone play on stage, I could hear them at my campsite at some point. So much fun packed into a little festival. We stayed up all night, and Don and Rodney from the Greengrass Cloggers were confused why the stadium lights at CMU were on so late when I let them know, that's the sun coming up. After that, they went down to the bowl where everyone sat during the stage performances and threw everyone's chair into a huge pile. I watched for a while and then left. I thought they were being sort of rude, but we had asked people to take their belongings for the night when they left to go back to their campsites. Nonetheless, I didn't know what difference it made. Why not leave the chairs right there till morning? The next morning, people were mad, and it was a big tangled mess. Slowly, they pulled the chairs apart, and everyone retrieved their chairs. Well, this started a tradition. People were mad, but they also realized how fun that must have been. So every year, people stay up very late and then put all the leftover chairs in a pile for the morning. Another tradition that Don actually tried to stop was Happy Wheatland! He thought it was grating and told people to stop, which actually worked against him. We set up more and more and it stuck. Now, 46, 47 years later, people start saying Happy Wheatland about 5 miles out, and they continue all weekend. It's a joyful saying, and it carries with it much love for the weekend and our fellow campers. It's always accompanied with a big old country smile and a wave. All the people working on Wheatland were falling in love with the Wernette family and the family farm. They had fields and standing pines and a lovely dirt road lined with overarching old-growth trees. They had a very traditional farmhouse, an upright in a wing, different gardens, fruit trees, and grapevines. It was feeling like home to me. They took us under their wing and only complained if we misplaced a hammer or ran the tractor out of gas far away from the house. These were old rules for me, so no problem. We cleaned the fields where people were camping in the bowl, and it was really clean before we started and pristine when we finished. All is good. Then I headed back to school and into the fall. Our friend Bert heard Don and I wanted to make a sign for the third Wheatland, so he bought us a Dremel tool for making the letters and carving out the wheat shaft on the front. He helped us get a nice round piece of plywood cut and the edges sanded. Then he used a router to cut a circle under the letters, separating them from the center. I carved out the wheat, and Don cut and sanded the letters. We added some color to the wheat, and it was good to go. The second Wheatland was still a wagon with plastic covering, but by the third we had a nice little stage. By the third Wheatland, I was 21, so it's past the scope of what I intended for this project. I'll tell you when I write my second book what happened to the sign after the third Wheatland when the bikers got a hold of it. Oh, you got to live without an answer? I signed up for classes. I did not know what I was doing. Art was a lost dream. In music, I was way too far behind and had to drop that idea. Mechanics was all men. At the time, doing something non-traditional was appealing, but little did I understand the resistance. A friend and I decided to take a wood design class together. It was the dead puppy friend. We thought we could weather the storm together. The first day was interesting but unsettling because the first interaction with the professor. We both had male first names as last names, Peter and Francis. This confused the professor, or just gave him a point to start harassing us. Remember, these were the days when a man could slap you on the ass on the way out of the door and it was accepted. I was feeling rather exposed at that point. I came back for the whole semester, but felt like I had to fly under the radar so I wouldn't get harassed, just like Bebo's 7th grade class with him teasing me about my nose and losing the whole garter episode. I made what I thought was a really cool folding chair. It had a wood frame and a cloth seat that draped from the top to the bottom. It was not the strongest frame, but it worked. And the fabric should have been more of a canvas, but it was nice. The professor made fun of me for the cheesy cloth and the 1x2-inch wooden frame. He was right, but it was a design class, not a production class. He gave me a C- and I slunk home to the garage. Years later, I watched that very design become quite popular. I guess my idea was worth more than a C-. He probably stole it from me. Halloween was quickly approaching. It was getting colder and the leaves were falling in the wind like the winter's snowstorm, blowing this way and that, piling up in corners and recesses of the big old lumber baron houses. I was down to a crawl. Life was passing me by like streaks of light with very little definition. My birthday came and I was in really bad shape and started crying before noon and proceeded to cry the rest of the day. Don was getting pretty pissed and half screamed at me, "What the fuck is your problem?" I said, "I'm 10 years behind and never thought for 1 minute I would make it to the age of 21. I always assumed my family would kill me first, not out of malice, but from careless behavior or neglect. I had no plan. Not once had I seriously thought about my own future, just the needs of others. Now I had a whole new problem and would take years of work. First I needed to repair what I had and then build new what I needed. I guess this was never going to be easy. Fuck me."